welcome to today's episode of Shine a Little Kindness. And my guest today believes that mindset is not simply how we think, it determines how we lead, how we respond when life becomes difficult, and how we show up for others. Eric Goodman is an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, speaker, and best-selling author of What's Your Mindset? Meditation on Life and Leadership. Through his businesses, nonprofit involvement, community leadership, Eric has dedicated so much of his life to serving people and bringing others together. Eric, welcome to Shine a Little Kindness.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to see you again.
Absolutely. Sorry it's taken a long time for us to get together when we were in California. We missed each other. You were traveling and we're going the other way and all of that, but great to be with you today. And Eric, I think before we dive into our conversation and all of the accomplishments that you've made, tell us a little bit who Eric Goodman is when the titles and all the awards are taken away.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I'll share my background story with you, if that's okay, a little bit. I don't know how much about it
Absolutely.
but so I was born with a very rare condition called Schumann's kyphosis. I don't know if you've ever heard of it before or know what it is, but I'm
No,
sure you've heard of scoliosis.
I
So
have.
scoliosis is the same family. It's a 45-degree curvature of the spine. Schumann's kyphosis is a 90-degree curvature of the spine. So at its most severe, you're completely hunchback. So I knew I was born with this rare condition. It's like less than 4% of the population worldwide. Normally, what they do to cure my condition is they fuse your spine. The problem is when they fuse your spine, they stunt your growth. So they don't like to perform the surgery in children because then they can't grow anymore.
Oh,
So I was diagnosed at a very young age. I was actually in elementary school in the 70s, and they would come around and test for scoliosis. I don't know if
oh,
you
I
remember
remember
that.
that.
Had,
Yep.
had a nurse
Yep.
would pull you out of the classroom and they would take you in the nurse's office to test you. I don't know why they picked that one, but I was tested and confirmed that I had it. And then as they did more research, figured out it was very severe. So I was going to the children's hospital, every year for checkups. I was in leg braces, I was in back braces. And then at 15 and a half years old, we were at Los Angeles Children's Hospital seeing the specialist. And he came in the room and I remember him saying to my parents, he said, "We're going to have to send you in for emergency surgery right away. The pressure on Eric's lungs from the curvature of his spine is collapsing his left lung, and
Oh
he's
my
going to die from punctured lungs."
God.
And we were like, whoa, we didn't see that coming. We thought someday I was going to have surgery and it was me for my back, never anything with my lungs. So coincidentally, they moved me to Loma Linda Children's Hospital, which was
Mm.
closer to where we lived. And I underwent a surgery and they fused my spine. They removed portion of my ribs, inserted that into my backbone, into my vertebrae, put two metal rods in my back, plastic rib inserts. And the spine is obviously a very large bone. So when they fuse it with other bone, it takes a very long time to heal.
Mhm.
So I was casted in a full body cast from the neck down for 9 months. So
Oh
just
my.
like a cast you would have on your arm or your leg, I had basically from here down, and the only thing I could move was my head. So I was completely bedridden in this full body cast at 15 and a half years old. So I was totally reliant on my mom. She took a leave of absence from work to stay home with me. And I was homeschooled. I missed all of ninth grade. I went in eighth grade, missed all of ninth grade, went back to school in 10th grade. I had physical therapy to learn how to walk again. And obviously it was a very traumatic experience at a very young age. And prior to the surgery, I spent most of my childhood being picked on by kids because I was in leg braces and I was in a back brace and I was disabled and I was different and I couldn't do PE and, just all the horrible things kids did in the 80s. I
Right,
was,
right,
I was a
exactly.
part, I was a part of that. So to answer your question, my life moving forward. So currently today, outside of the titles and the position, one of my companies, we service about 500 homes for developmentally disabled adults and children, about
Mhm.
3,500 patients in California that we service with their daily supplies and needs in group homes. So kind of my mission after my surgery was I know what people have went through and I want to help those in the community who need help, whether it's physical or mental disabilities. And the thing that always amazes me when someone meets me, me, you've met me,
Yep.
you would not know that I'm disabled by looking at me. You wouldn't
Oh,
know I have a fused spine. You wouldn't know I had hardware in my back. You wouldn't know I had plastic rib inserts. So people see me as normal.
right.
And then they find out what's happened to me and they're like, wow, I'm severely disabled. I just don't look disabled. So I get treated normal, right? But
Right.
then somebody who is disabled, either physically or mentally, they get treated differently. And that is a problem for me. So that's been
Yeah.
my mission in life is I want to help those who don't have somebody maybe as a voice that can say, I've been through this. I know what you're doing and I'm here and how can I help you?
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. I think our lives are in parallels. Like Haley, the same thing, right? You meet Haley today, and you would never know what she went through. I mean, people will say, "Hey, what is that on your neck?" And it's like, well, her trach scar, right? And that's she kind of talks about that as her badge of honor. And
Yes.
you would never know talking to her today what she went through and the trials and tribulations. Well, she doesn't I mean, thankfully, she doesn't remember that 1 year of her life. So, like you, she missed all of eighth grade and half of ninth grade. So, yeah, you guys have that in common. And, her recovery was another year and a half after the hospital, right? And so that's where it was really hard. And I think deep in the back of her mind, that's when she knew that she wanted to help others and do other things. And then, we certainly, I mean, that hit us hard when in living at the Ronald McDonald House for as long as we did. We saw lots of other kids that, one did, or families that their kids didn't make it home, and kids with even worse conditions than Haley, and your heart goes out to them. And that's why that ignited our passion to help this organization, because people do have a journey in life. And like you went through, and in those back in the 70s and 80s, I mean, we were a lot more bullying types than
Yes.
than today, right? And
Yes.
I can remember somebody picked on in third grade, and I feel sick I mean, that was a long time ago, and I still like, why did I do that? But so now
Yeah.
we're just serving up kindness, and I look at everything that you're doing in all of the organizations that you're involved with, and I know you're involved. You're the chairman of the board of the Inland Empire Ronald McDonald House.
Yes.
You've been involved with the charity for 20 some years. And Eric, I mean, that is just amazing. And then, you start looking at the books that you've written and everything that you do in your life. And I'm envious, and I hope that I can get up to your level at some point. But man, I guess it's just a lot more bike riding than I'll have to do. But your new book is called "What's Your Mindset?" And how does that drive you, and how do you share that energy and compassion to let other people know that they can help?
No, that's a great question. And it's funny you would mention that about your daughter. I had the exact same experience, which is, I guess, common with what happens. But, I had my surgery at 15 and a half years old. That was like 33 years ago. And I didn't tell my story publicly until 2023. So 3 years ago was the first time I ever shared. I kept my surgery a secret. Other than people that knew me when I was 15, I never
Sure.
spoke of it after that because I wanted to be normal, right?
Yeah.
I wanted people to treat me normal. I didn't want to talk about my disabilities or that I had a condition. I didn't want people to see me like that. And when I started sharing my story publicly in 2023, and I hired a storytelling coach and I was speaking at events sharing it, I had PTSD. There was a ton of stuff I couldn't remember. And I had to sit down with my mom and family members and they showed me pictures and said, do you remember the leg braces you had? I'm like, no. Then do
Wow.
you remember when this happened in the therapy in a year, like you said, a year and a half, and you remember learning to walk again and all the tread? I'm like, no, I don't remember any of that. Now I did when I saw the photos.
Yeah.
Previously I had never, and I think it's because it was so traumatic. I had chose to block it out of my memory intentionally because it was painful. So then when I started sharing it publicly and speaking, I decided to write the book, which is What's Your Mindset? And it's my memoir. It's my life story about my surgery and about how I used my life to give back to others and help people like the Ronald McDonald House and the other boards I sit on. I use my businesses to give back to the community. I think, like I mentioned to you, one of my companies, we service about 500 homes for developmentally disabled adults and children. We're the product service here in California. And I wrote the book. I had it all completed. I was on like the 11th manuscript review and I didn't have a title. And I started going back and reading all my stories about my surgery and my dyslexia and my heart condition and almost losing my business and my faith and just all the things that have happened in my life over 50 years. And every single one of those events, it was my mindset that had got me through. It was that I was told, you can't do this. You're disabled. You can't do these things. That'll never happen. You can't build this business. You can't do this. You can't, every time I was told, no, 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 I kept saying yes, yes, yes. And
Yes. Yes.
I kept having a positive mindset and saying, look, after what I survived, there's nothing that I can't do and nobody's going to tell me And if somebody tells me I can't do something, oh my gosh, that's even probably like you with cycling. Like, tell me I can't cycle across the US and I'm going to show you that I can cycle across the US. I'm going to do it better than anybody's ever. That's just my personality. So that's where the title came. And so what I share when I speak to people is every single day of our life, you and I get up and we have a decision to make every single morning. We can either have an amazing day and a great attitude and bless everybody around us and affect people's lives and make a difference, or we can have a horrible day and, have all these awful things happen to us. But that's a decision you and I make, and nobody
Right.
can take that from us and nobody can give that to us. We can go out today after you and I get off this podcast, and the entire day is going to be dictated by you and I's attitude and how we decide to approach everyone around us today. So years ago, I took
Right.
the adage that I'm going to have a positive mindset. I'm going to do everything I can in my power to help everyone around me. And today, bad things are going to happen. Things are going to happen at my office, at my companies. Something's going to happen in the community. Things aren't going to go my way. They're not going to go right. And I know it's not going to be perfect. But at the end of the day, when I get home tonight and my wife, like she does, your wife does it usually say, honey, how was your day? How did it
Right.
go? And I have two choices. I can either say, today sucked, and I can give her all the reasons it was horrible, which was I knew was going to happen this morning because I set it up for that, right? Or I can come home and say, there was a few bumps, but it was amazing. We got through it. I empowered everybody around me and the team, and I stayed positive, and everybody around me felt that energy, and we pulled through. And that's 99% of my days. And people always say to me, Eric, how do you do it? And then how do you do all these things? And I said, but that's a choice. I
Right.
make that
Right.
choice. I made the choice today to do what I did. And I got up with that. So everybody can do it. It's just a matter of, are you willing to stay in a positive mindset and make things right? Or you want to be that person that people are around and you're going to negatively affect everyone around you. You're the
Right.
positive person
Right.
in your journey. I'm the positive person in my journey.
Yeah. And that's really interesting because I think today it's so difficult because there's so many outside influences today that people they latch onto, right? That provide a lot of negative energy and criticism or harshness or whatever. It's like, don't do that, right? Like when you think about the negativity of stress can provide to your overall health and
Being.
mental well-being, right, it's so debilitating. I mean, I just wish people would just start the with like glasses full,
Yes. Or even when it does suck, like, trust me, there's days, lots of days that suck.
Oh,
And do I
absolutely.
maybe bang my head against the car steering wheel when I'm alone, or do I scream, or do I get upset at the house? Possibly it happens. I'm not saying it doesn't, but
Right.
never in public, never in community, never around my teams, never at the organizations I serve, never in the community. I go out every day with a big smile. I'm positive around everybody. And then it seems like at the end of the day, somebody will text or message me or LinkedIn me and say, I was struggling today, and then I encountered you and you uplifted me, and then you just start telling me all this stuff, or they get my book and I'm like, you see, I just impacted somebody's life. And all I did was just kind.
Yeah.
I was just a
Right.
good person, and I didn't have to do anything else. That was it. And I know, and you probably know, but when you get to a certain leadership level and those titles, you're being watched every day.
Yep.
Everybody is watching my every move. Everything I do on my organizations or my charities, people know and they're watching me. And I don't want anybody to catch me doing anything that's against my values. I want every day somebody to see me and be like, you know what, exactly what I thought Eric was, that's what he was. And that's what I wanted.
Well, it's interesting because when I did the ride in 2024, I met a lot of dads across the country. These big burly guys that would come up to me with tears, and they're like, "Jeff, how can you do this? How can you share your story?" And I'm like, I don't, it just we're blessed that Haley survived. It was absolutely horrible. I think I've shared with people that, within the first 3 weeks, we weren't sure if Haley was going to live or die. I lost my job, and the company said, "Hey, if you want health insurance, send us a check for $1,000." And the first medical bill was $2.4 million.
Mine was the same. Mine was the same. My
Holy,
dad was on the front page of the newspaper for leveraging his business to pay for because our insurance company canceled us because of my surgery. Same
oh my
story.
gosh, right? It's crazy. And it's like, well, what am I going to do? I can't, it's my daughter, it's my family. I'm not going to climb into a hole. I'm going to fight this thing as hard as we can. It's not just about me, it's my family.
Right.
So we're gonna fight as hard as we can. We're gonna try to do the right things survive another day. And this is where, the Ronald McDonald Houses come in handy because, I mean, are a godsend, because there's no way we could have driven home an hour every day for months. I mean, we're minutes from the hospital. We live an hour from the hospital, and they provide everything that we need. It was a home away from home, and they do all these great things for you. I can kind of imagine.
And luckily
So,
for me, my mom was able to stay with me, but I was at Loma Linda Children's Hospital, and our current Ronald McDonald House is directly across the street. But my surgery was in 1990, and the house didn't open until 1996. So I
oh my
didn't have
gosh.
the benefit of using the house. But when the house opened, that's when my family was like, okay, I know what these families have been through. We need to help them. So my parents started volunteering there with their car club. That's what got me involved.
Wow.
That's how I started my philanthropy. Was we started a car show, raised money, donated it to the house. And then the house came to me and said, would you consider joining the board of directors? And at that time, I was 25. And when I became president of the house, I was the youngest president in Ronald McDonald House history to be president of the organization.
Wow.
So
That's
it was
awesome.
just, but it was a passion because I knew what the families had been through at the
Yep.
hospital. So I knew what the house provided. So I never stayed at our house. I actually just knew what the house provided, and I had been through what those kids had been through. So that's why I got involved. And then Ron McDonald House led to many other organizations that I'm involved
Yep.
with, but it was just the point of that was the organization that got me into giving back to others.
I mean, that's fantastic. And like you said, I mean, these simple little things that you can do can make a big impact in somebody's life. And, you know, it just could be like, hey, Eric, how you doing today? It's just like, hey, let's grab a cup of coffee. Or, it's just your attitude that changes everything, right?
Yes.
And these are little things that are hard to do.
No,
And I just feel like we forget about some stuff sometimes. It's like,
absolutely. Yeah. I keep a list. I have about 10 people currently that I'm mentoring. And on my mentees, I keep a list of all the things they're doing, and I meet with them once a month for, a hour meeting, but then I also follow up with them during the month. And I keep track of what they're doing the month, and I send them text messages. I just did
yeah,
yesterday, one of them, and I'm like, I'm proud of you. I see what you're doing. You're doing a good job. And then I get this email last night that's probably 30 paragraphs, and it's telling me how much that impacted her life and how I'm the only person that believes in her and how she's doing all these things because of me. And I'm like, all I did was text her and said, keep it up. I'm proud. It took me less than a minute,
right,
less
right,
than a
right.
minute.
Yep.
It was a very small thing. And to her, the response that I got was like, I mean, it took her longer to write the email than what it took me to write, but people just don't do that. But it just takes one person believing in you and telling you you can do it. And then that person is going to go change so many lives. And that's what I
Right.
want to do every day.
Right. And that is absolutely fantastic. And, we're doing the same thing through the bike rides, and we're getting more companies involved, and we're getting people involved. It's just been a fantastic experience to help raise awareness for the organization and do all of the things
Yes.
that,
Thank you
that,
so
that
much
they
for
do.
what you have done. I know we met a couple years ago in Chicago when we were
Yep.
at the Ronald McDonald House National conference where all the houses come in from the world. And I remember you being there, us being from California. And I remember a bunch of people coming up to me and asking, and they saw you and you shared your story. And I remember talking to people there, and yeah, that it was very uplifting and motivating because so like you said, so many of us have been impacted, but yet so few people do something. And you were actually able to, do that and motivate all these people. So thank you for everything you've
Oh,
done.
gosh, it's our pleasure. I always say I wish I could do more, and
I think you've done a lot.
there's still a lot of
And you're
bike
doing
miles
this.
I can do, and
You're, and
we'll get
and
around the country, right?
you're doing
So,
the podcast too. You're getting it out and you're sharing people's stories. And I think you're motivating people every single day. So thank
well,
you so much.
well, of course, Eric, thank you. Well, thank you for everything that you do
Thank you.
in helping the organizations, all the organizations, right? There's a lot of people that need help across the country. So I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your busy day to spread a little bit of kindness, or shine a little bit of kindness, I should say.
Absolutely.
And we're going to continue our missions. I look forward to seeing you the next time in California. Hopefully, you won't be traveling
Please.
to Italy, drinking good wine,
No,
eating good
no,
food, right?
please.
But we'll definitely be great to catch up with you and do some more good to help our fellow human being, right?
Thank you very much for having me.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Eric. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye bye.